time, fires towards the end zone. Leaping grab, touchdown.
1:15 left to play to decide the state champion in Division 4. They will hand it to Blue. Running left, he got undercut. He got hit near the marker. I think he might be short.
Live from Max and Erma's in Westerville, it's OHSAA Football This Week. Now here's your hosts, Marty Bannister and Greg Fry.
And we do indeed welcome you to the Max and Erma's here in Westerville as we get ready for high school football 2018. It is hard to believe it is time for high school football. Hello, everyone. We're so glad you're joining us tonight here on EBS and here at Max and Erma's in Westerville. Marty Bannister, the quarterback, Greg Fry. We got a lot of guests coming up on the program tonight. 2 hours, we're going to talk high school football with you. Should be a great night. Folks here have been kind enough to let us come in and interrupt their dinners. I know Greg's kind of hungry. He'd like to join some of you at your table, so watch out. He'll come out and just start picking through your plates and everything, so be careful out there.
I might.
Get ready for high school football?
I am.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe it's here. I mean, it just feels like last early December being in Canton watching the state finals, and here we are again. It always sneaks up on us, and here we are.
And it's interesting because you look at around the state of Ohio, and everyone will tell you, "Oh, our area is the best. This area is the best." Well, I think in the last couple of years, what's happened in Central Ohio has really started to take off. We had a state champion last year in Pickerington Central.
Yeah.
A number of teams, all three Olentangy schools made the playoffs last year. This is an area, Greg, where high school football, we feel it's always been good in this part of the state. I know you're a Cincinnati guy, so you're going to right away start giving us all that.
No.
But Central Ohio high school football has really started to take off.
Well, yeah, and I think you got to throw Bishop Hartley in that mix too.
Absolutely.
They went back to back.
That's right.
Not last year, but the prior 2 years, beating Steubenville back-to-back years, which is saying a lot in Division 4. And they've just been a powerhouse consistently. And then you've got you go back a few years. Hilliard Davidson has won 2 state championships, and you go all the way back to Arlington, and in 2000, I believe. So,
right.
But yeah, the last couple of years, especially, there's been some very good football played in Central Ohio, and by a lot of teams.
Absolutely.
And that's impressive. And yes, I have a bias for Southeast Ohio or Southwest Ohio. Excuse me. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, I know that'll be a part of the discussion tonight. As we mentioned, we got a big show coming up for you here at Max and Erma's in Westerville. And again, we're so glad that the folks here have invited us out to bring you this show. We're excited about it. We're partnering with the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Associate Commissioner Bo Rugg is going to join us on the program tonight. He's the football administrator, so any questions you have about what's going on with football, Bo Rugg can handle that. We're expected to have Westerville Central head coach Brent Morrison join us in a little while. His Warhawks have a tough opener on Friday. They go down to Whitehall to take on the Rams. That should be a very entertaining football game, so we'll hear from him. Aaron Cassidy, our friend from Game Day Broadcasting, will be with us as well, too. Aaron covers New Albany football. He'll be joining us. And Steve Blackledge, perhaps the dean of high school football reporters in the state of Ohio, certainly Central Ohio, will join us as well, too. We'll let you know as well, too, nothing has changed on the Urban Meyer situation. I know a lot of folks are probably wondering about that. At last check, the Board of Trustees were still in session. It only started at 9 o'clock this morning. There are multiple reports out about what's going on. Channel 6 is reporting that the president of Ohio State, Michael Drake, wants a suspension, while the Board of Trustees does not want to suspend a suspension of any sort for Urban Meyer, and apparently that's the big holdup in getting all this done. And for those who don't know, of course, Greg Fry, former Ohio State quarterback, played for the Buckeyes, and I know this is a situation for you, and we're going to get into our high school conversation, but of course the Urban Meyer situation has dominated talk all around Central Ohio the last 3 or 4 weeks or so. And I know this is something that you have a lot of strong feelings on this. We've talked about it a lot in our Buckeye Overtime show on Saturday mornings, but it's one of those situations that I know you want it over, everyone wants it over to get to football.
And and there's history with me because Urban Meyer came to Ohio State. He was recruited. He was an assistant coach at St. Xavier High School when I was playing there, and part of the recruiting process for me leaked into Urban Meyer coming to Ohio State. And so I've known him for a long time, and he's certainly done an excellent job. And so this one's quite personal, and I know the Smith family well too. So it's these are people that I know quite well, and it's frustrating to see this thing played out the way that it has. And like most, I'm kind of done with it. I'm like, can we get the facts on the table, make a decision, and let's move on with everything. I can see the debate going on today about should he be suspended or not. I'm saying he already did. He's already paid a major price, and so is the team. So we'll see how that plays out. But I just want it done. Move on. Let's go.
So we want to get you an update on that. And should anything happen on that while we are with you here tonight at Max and Erma's and here on EBSN, we will certainly tell you about it and bring it to you as that happens, because there is a very good possibility that some decision could be announced while we're on the air with you tonight from 7 to 9
maybe right
o'clock.
now they're actually taking a break to decide what flavor pizza they're going to have because it's been such a long day. They need to eat.
They should come here. Take a
They
break
should
and come
here, right,
Come here to
right.
Max and
They
Erma's
come here.
and eat here.
We'll feed
It's
'em.
close. It's
We'll
easy
feed
to come
'em.
up 315. Real easy to find right here off of Maxtown and Old 3C Highway. So it's very simple to find. The food is great. Hospitality is great. A lot of great fans in here tonight. I'm sure a lot of Buckeye fans are in here tonight. Why
Do you
wouldn't
think
wanna
there's
come
a little bit of tension in that room?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about that. That might be one of the more tension-filled rooms that out there anywhere right now. So, but again, we promise we'll keep you updated. Anything breaks, you'll know about it right here on EBSN, because that's what we do. If you're curious as to exactly what all this is, EBSN, we are one of the new breed, I guess you will, of broadcasting. We're an internet interactive service. We have many, many great shows. We'll run down those for you throughout the night. But over the last 2.5 years, we've had shows at various locations. We have our own studios, and we want to hear from you. We give you the chance to give your voice to make your voice heard. So often the radio talk shows, they'll talk for 4 hours. That's all you hear are a couple of guys going at one another, as I knock a fly out of the way here. But we give you the chance. We've had great response. Our show the last couple of Saturdays, Buckeye Overtime, over 5,000 views and over 100 responses each and every Saturday. So you get your chance to tell us what's on your mind. You send it to us on our Facebook Live page, on Twitter. He's at Greg Fry 15. I'm at Marty Bannister, and we're also on EBSN online. We'll take your questions, your comments. And tonight, we want to get into high school football with you. Who's your favorite high school football team? Who's the player you're most excited to see? Tell us all that. Again, hit us up on Facebook Live, EBSN. What game will you be going to on Friday night? We want to hear that as well, too. There are games kicking off tomorrow night. Ohio now has a slew of Thursday night games. So many things that you can get to us here on EBSN, but that's what we do. We're interactive. It's all up to you. We come on, tell you what's going on, bring you guests, but we want to hear your response, your reaction. Greg will even take your recipes if you have any. Greg's a big cook. He likes to do those type of things. So
I'll take recipes for winning. That's what I pay attention to. What's the recipe to win for the season and in the playoffs?
You always kind of spin it back.
See, I try to.
Yeah.
You get off track.
The one thing I can guarantee
reel you back in.
I can guarantee you there will be a Seinfeld reference during the show at some
Yes,
point. That's one of the staples of what we do. But again, thanks to the folks at Max and Erma's for having us out here tonight. We want to tell you that Max and Erma's are rolling out their new fall menu starting on August the 27th. Some of the features include a new Asian chopped salad. You're Mr. Healthy. You would love that.
True. That
A
sounds
delicious
very good.
French onion burger. The return of a guest favorite, the Smokehouse chicken sandwich. Also, be sure to join us here at Max and Erma's every Tuesday night. Kids eat free. How about that? Help you with the budget. As well as every Thank You Thursday, where we say thank you to our guests with $5 burgers with endless fries. Endless fries.
Endless
Greg.
fries?
Endless fries. That's right. Fry, Bueller.
Hey.
For more updates. Yes.
That's not Seinfeld, though.
But
That's not Seinfeld.
We're still early into
Somebody
the show.
needs to message us and tell us what that was, because I know what it was.
We got a lot of time. For more updates, be sure to like us at Max and Erma's Westerville, and it's on Facebook. So, again, thank you again to the folks at Max and Erma's for having us out. I mentioned last year the Central Ohio area produced a state champion in Pickerington Central, and the Tigers loaded at the skill positions this year, but I was looking back at some of my game charts. I called 3 of their games last season, and they have lost a slew of people, especially up front. And that was with Demetric Crenshaw scoring 6 touchdowns in the state championship game. A lot of it, thankfully, credited to those guys up front.
Yes.
And, Greg, you know, being a quarterback, how important those guys are up front.
Absolutely. But they're well coached, though. I mean, they're always they're going to be good up front. I mean, I don't think there's always new athletes coming up in that program, always.
Right.
So I would have to think that
You expecting a call, Jake?
we have a phone ringing. This is called live.
Just jump right in, producer Jake. Just do that.
What
there
was I
you go.
saying? No, they reload every year.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
very well coached.
Exactly. That's right. It's what it's all about.
But Crenshaw is, he was the glue last year. I mean,
Right.
when you get an athletic quarterback like that, and a good running game to go with that, and a great defense. They always have a great defense with Jeff Lamonaco at the helm. He's been a long-time defensive coordinator there.
Mm-hmm.
They're always going to be solid on defense, always athletic. So that's a team that I'd be shocked if they were not in the mix again this year. I
Absolutely.
would be shocked.
A lot of talent on that team, no question. And already got a couple of questions rolling into us on Facebook and on Twitter right now. One of them, Greg, wants to get your thoughts, and we're going to hear again from Steve Blackledge from the Dispatch, Aaron Cassidy, and Bo Rugg as well here tonight at Max and Erma's. They want to know, Pickerington North, Pickerington Central, have you seen a situation like that in the years you've been covering high school football where you have two teams, two schools within a few miles of one another that have produced the amount of talent those schools have?
Yeah, I mean, that's that game last year, regional final, I believe. You know, I was able to broadcast that game, and those are two excellent football teams, and that is a rare occasion. I in all the years I've covered high school football, I cannot think of two schools being that close to each other, and frankly, two schools that have a large distaste for each other.
And
I can
those
say
games
that
were pretty intense.
I coached there. I get it, you know, and I say that with all due respect. I have so much respect for Jay Sherritt and Jeff Lamonica and those guys at Central, but that was a heated game. But athletically, to see that many athletes on the same field that live just a couple miles apart is unheard of. And but you know, you got to throw the Olentangy schools in the mix too.
Right, all three went to the playoffs last year.
Right. Not quite to the level of those two, but darn near.
But it's remarkable not only that the abilities that like the Olentangy schools had, but the amount of talent that's come out of Pickerington. Steve Blackledge from the Dispatch is there. He's going to join us in a short period of time. Well, certainly he knows all about that. We'll get his thoughts on some of that. But it's remarkable just the amount of NFL draft picks that have come out of that school district.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and Pat Elfline starting for the Minnesota Vikings, and Pick Central's put out so many. Jake Butt's going to get his chance. He came from Pick North. He's going to get his chance with the Broncos after sitting out a year and having a great career at Michigan. Taco Charlton.
Right, Charlton,
who it seems like just yesterday I was at practice watching him and introducing him to my son, and now he's playing on Sundays. So, yeah, the talent out of both those schools and out of Pickerington is incredible. And, I got to give some credit to their youth program. You know, they've got an excellent youth program there.
That's where it starts.
And they build from that point. And by the time you get to high school, it's amazing what those kids do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And well coached, too. I mean,
no question.
Well coached at the high school level, both schools, they do a fabulous job.
And he's going to join us next week, Mark Norrie, the first-year head coach at first-year high school, Olentangy, Berlin. And how about stepping into that buzzsaw? He comes into a district where all three schools last year went to the state football playoffs. One of those schools this year may have the most highly recruited, still unsigned player, certainly in Central Ohio, but without question maybe in the state of Ohio, and Zach Harrison, the defensive end of Olentangy Orange. I remember last year, Greg.
He's in his sixth year, I believe.
I remember last year walking onto the field to cover one of their games, and he ran past me, and I thought I was at a college game. I mean, the young man is 6'6", 245 pounds, and it was just remarkable to see that kind of athletic ability on a high school football field.
I saw him play, I believe it was 2 years ago. That's why I say he's in his sixth year. He was redshirted twice, and he was a puppy then. You know, and he wasn't the only thing he lacked was consistency. But when he made a play, it was unbelievable.
Right.
So yeah, but Mark Norrie, I mean, how about that situation? I mean, that's going to be fun to watch and see how he does. But he's got his hands full. And obviously, I love to get his comments. He knows it's going to take a while.
Right.
But how about the irony that, he left Stowe.
Loaded.
Stowe has been loaded, been a very good football team the last couple of years. I've seen them deep in the playoffs.
Right.
And now Tom Phillips, the former coach at Pickerington North, is now the head coach for Stowe, Central Ohio coach. So go figure.
Synergy. So everybody just moves in one great big circle in high school coaching. So those are some of the schools certainly to watch. And again, high school football kicks off on Thursday night with games. There's the Thursday Night Lights game locally. It's a City League matchup. City League making news too with the possibility that a couple of schools may close. Marion Franklin is on that list because of some budget cuts that the City League is dealing with right now. And you talk about schools that have been powers, Marion Franklin has just produced a truckload of talent over the years. So we'll see where all that stands. We're just getting started tonight. We're so glad you're with us here, not only at Max and Erma's, but joining us on EBSN. The quarterback's Greg Fry. I'm Marty Bannister. Big show coming up for you tonight. As mentioned, still to come from the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Associate Commissioner Bo Rugg will join us. Aaron Cassidy, the birthday boy from the Game Day Broadcasting Sports Network, will be here to talk with us as well, too. Westerville Central head coach Brent Morrison is going to stop by in the second hour of the program. And when we come back from this break, we're going to bring in the Dean of Central Ohio High School football reporters and just high school reporters in general, our friend Steve Blackledge. That's right, it just means you're old. That's exactly what it means. Our friend Steve Blackledge from the Columbus Dispatch joins us when we return. Great to have you with us here tonight. EBSN, Max and Erma's, the Ohio High School Football Athletic Association High School Showcase. We're just underway. Glad to have you with us tonight.
without one.
The Rivalry, a historic showdown between two great teams and two passionate fan bases. This season, join Germain Honda of Dublin and Germain Honda of Ann Arbor as we relive the greatest moments in the history of the game, with special offers for listeners. Discover Honda's award-winning lineup of cars and SUVs, like the 2017 CR-V, starting at just over $24,000. But rest assured, whether you're in Ann Arbor or Columbus, you can count on Germain Honda to deliver the right car, the right price, the right way.
It really is the difference between winning and losing, being able to get your hands inside, defeat blockers, and it works at all positions and all skill levels. I'm Joey Bosa. See the difference to your game.
And welcome back to Max and Erma's in Westerville, the corner of 3C Highway and Maxtown Road. And here on EBSN, we welcome you back to our high school football preview show, the Ohio High School Athletic Association football preview. We are so glad you're with us here tonight. I'm Marty Bannister. Down to the other end of the table is the quarterback, Greg Fry, my co-host. What do you got there? Oh, my goodness. What
and they're hot,
pretzel.
too.
Wow. All right.
Pretzel
See, they take care of you, Max and Erma's. This is where you want to be.
Mind if I eat while you're talking? Is that okay?
Right. Please go ahead. Yeah, go right ahead. Well, see, I can talk to Steve Blackledge while you eat, so I'd much rather talk to Steve than talk to you anyway.
I'm just a long snapper here.
From the Columbus Dispatch, Steve Blackledge has joined us. He's been covering high school athletics in Central Ohio for many, many a year. I called you the dean a moment ago, and you said that just means you're old. Is that how that works?
That's pretty accurate.
It's pretty accurate? It's pretty accurate. How long have you been covering high school athletics?
This is my 33rd season.
Oh, my gosh.
For the Dispatch.
Wow, 33 years. And we're going to get obviously into a lot of the high school stuff and break down the teams and whatnot. Greg and I touched on at the top of the program tonight about how good Central Ohio high school football has really we've always thought it's been good. But over the last few years with state champions, Hartley, what Pickering and Central did last year, have you seen it gone to another level?
It definitely is. The individual talent, I think, has gotten a lot better. I mean, especially out towards the suburbs. I think the Pickeringtons, obviously, the Olentangies, the multi-school districts have really become powerhouses, and we've got a few Catholic schools that are very good as well.
No question.
I mean, you got to mention Hilliard too. I mean, you got three Hilliard
absolutely.
Schools
Can't forget to Davidson, state champions.
Have been in the playoffs quite a bit. Bradley went to playoffs the last couple of years, so they've been very solid. Darby's had some good years, so. How is that you get these suburban school districts with multiple teams? That blows my mind.
Well, our population has really shifted in Columbus since the 60s and 70s. I mean, it used to be the City League used to have a lot of the good talent.
Right.
The talent is moving out to the suburbs now. I think that's what the big key of the whole situation.
And that's remarkable because I was talking with someone the other day on Twitter when Olentangy Berlin opened the doors the other day. I kind of threw out a question. Everyone always talks about hockey's original 6 teams. How many of you can name the original 8 teams in the Ohio Capital Conference? Now there are 32 in the OCC, and that just shows you the growth, I think, in Central Ohio.
I think I could name the 8.
All right, go ahead. Give you a shot.
Right.
Go ahead.
Gahanna Lincoln.
That's right.
Delaware.
Yep.
Mount Vernon.
Yep.
Westerville.
Yep.
Whitehall.
Yep.
Boy, here we go now.
Now you're struggling.
Trying to remember.
Think West.
Hilliard.
Yep, there you go.
Dublin wasn't in the
Dublin
OCC.
wasn't. Nope.
Wow.
Keep going west.
Uh-oh. You're going to have to help me here.
Westland?
Westland, but it wasn't Westland.
It was Pleasantview.
It was Pleasantview at that time.
Okay.
Pleasantview at that time.
Okay.
And Grove City wasn't in the OCC then. It was
Worthington.
There you go.
Worthington. That was the original 8 in the
right.
Did you mention Arlington? Arlington
No, they were not. They were not an original member of the OCC.
Wow.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, Worthington split quite a long time.
Worthington split with Worthington Kilbourne. But again, that just shows you, I think, Steve, the growth not only of obviously the OCC, but the way Central Ohio has expanded.
Absolutely.
Now 32 schools in that league.
Absolutely. It's incredible. And like you said, the City League is starting to shrink now. They're possibly going to close a couple of those schools. There's talk they might even close more eventually.
Wow.
A lot of folks are talking about having about 12 teams in the City League would be ideal for the population that they have in those schools. So be interesting to see what happens.
That's a shame because, I mean, for a number of reasons, obviously. Not only athletically. We'll deal with it for that reason because that's what we do. But that shows you, I think, maybe the way the city is maybe shrinking from enrollment-wise because the suburban flight, if you will. Because as we just talked about with the OCC, the Mid-State League has a pretty good sized number of schools right now. It seems like those city schools are having a tough time just getting enough kids to compete.
Exactly. Yeah, there's several of the top flight City League schools only have 30, 40 kids on the team.
Wow.
So they're surviving. They're doing it strictly with talent. But, a lot of the schools are underpopulated is the problem, and I think there's typically 4 or 5 really good programs in the City League in all sports, and really the other 12 really don't do much. So I think that's really the problem they have right now.
Steve Blackledge from the Columbus Dispatch is with us here at Max and Erma's in Westerville. We want your questions about high school football. This is the answer man right here. Hit us up on our Facebook Live page. You can find us on YouTube and Twitter as well, at EBSN Online. On Twitter, I'm at Marty Bannister. At Greg Fry 15, you're on Twitter as well too.
I am at Blackie Preps.
At Blackie Preps, it's just that simple. So hit us up with your questions. We love to talk high school football with you, and Steve will be doing that with us here for this portion of our show tonight. We were talking earlier about the Pickeringtons, and I think everybody knows the talent that still resides down there. You've had a chance, obviously, to do some research and look back. Is Central good enough to make another run at a state title this year?
I think they are. They're going to have to get through that league first. The OCC Ohio was very difficult. I mean, Pickerington North and Reynoldsburg may well have as much talent as Pickerington Central, but whether they can actually get over that hump and beat a team that they've lost to several times in a row, that's going to be the key, I think.
I mean, Reynoldsburg, I mean, they're talented every year, it seems like. I mean, they've been very, very close. So you can't – that's no gimme, you know. Lancaster, obviously, is no gimme for those guys in that league. That's a very physical division they play.
Gahanna's been very good, too.
Gahanna's always got a lot of talent with a lot of skill. And they were last year. I saw Gahanna late in the season last year, and they were a very physical team. So you're right. That's no pushover, that league.
I think the key thing with Pickerington Central this year is replacing their offensive line. The entire offensive line plus 2 tight ends who were Division I prospects, both – they all graduated. I think replacing that line is going to be the real key because they mauled people in the playoffs. I mean, that was one of the reasons the quarterback looked as good as he did. Not taking nothing away from Demetrius Crenshaw. He'd be the first one to tell you that line just absolutely dominated people in the playoffs.
How good is he?
I think he's very good. I think to be succeed at the next level, he's going to have to pass it a little bit better, but he's definitely a dual threat who runs it very well. He has a good arm. I think he has to become a little bit more accurate as a passer to be a real successful college quarterback.
Isn't it remarkable how districts like that, and Greg and I again touched on this a short time ago, how districts like that just continually churn out the athletes and churn out the players, even though there are 2 schools in the same district?
Absolutely. The community has just grown that much. It's up to like 20,000 people now, the community is. So, I mean, at one time they played the Mid-State League.
Played in the Mid-State League, yeah. Absolutely. And that's been many, many years ago. They did that back in the 80s when they were in the MSL.
But, winning breeds winning, and that attracts athletes, attract families that want to play in a program like that. So I think that's been earned over time. And these young kids see the production at the high school level, these other kids, and they aspire to be that, and it's amazing how they just keep filling that void, and it's every year, which is incredible.
No question. Question for you, Steve, off our Twitter page, wondering about Zachary Harrison. Do you have any idea right now? The young man, I guess it's Ohio State and Michigan are 1-2, 2-1, or
Penn State's in the mix too.
In the mix
yeah,
too.
That's actually it was his first school he was interested in was Penn State. I'm not sure. I don't think he sincerely is leaning one way or the other. I talked off the record with his coach when I interviewed him last week, and he said he's really conflicted about this. He would actually have made the decision earlier had he already known, and I think it has a lot to do with family and has to do with the situation that Ohio State might figure into it. I'm not really sure about that.
And what position are they projecting him at the next level?
Outside linebacker.
Yeah, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, 6'6", about 245.
Outside linebacker / defensive end.
Yeah, I mean, I think that seems to be the natural fit, but he's so athletic. I mean, you can, he can put his hand on the offensive side too, or be an H-back. So he's so athletic.
Well, we talked about how talented the Pickerington district is, but as we mentioned, all 3 Olentangy schools went to the playoffs last year. I mean, there's not a lack of talent there either.
Right. Of course, the original Olentangy school was probably diluted a little bit because they lost a lot of their kids to Berlin, I should say. Pronounced it wrong.
Yeah. Well, what is it, Berlin or Berlin?
It's Berlin.
Berlin? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I wondered about that. Yeah. It's like Berlin Highland in Northeast Ohio. Folks get upset if you call it Berlin Highland. So I saw somewhere where the master plan, I think, for that district is for 7 high schools. 6 or 7 high schools because the way it used to be, if you're from Central Ohio, you know this, you used to know where Columbus ended and Delaware began when you were going up 23.
Exactly. I grew up in Delaware. We used to drive straight to Columbus, and we never saw anything except about three traffic lights.
Yeah, so. Those schools, Dublin, Olentangy, they were in the old – was it the Central Ohio League that they were in?
The Olentangis used to be in the Mid-Buckeye League.
The Mid-Buckeye League,
I think, yeah.
Well, that's been a long, long time ago, no question.
Mid-Ohio Conference as well, I think.
Mid-Ohio Conference. Steve Blackledge from the Columbus Dispatch with us here at Max and Erma's and on our OHSAA High School Football Preview Show. So glad he's with us. Glad you're with us as well, too. Keep those questions coming on our Facebook and our Twitter page as well, too. Another one, Steve, coming in for you on our Twitter page right now. Who is the best team right now going into the opener on Friday?
Well, I think you've got to say Pickerington Central until they're beat. I personally think Pickerington North is every bit as talented as them, but I think they're going to have to prove it by beating them. They lost to them twice last year, and that's a hump they have to get over. I would say Pickerington Central, but it could be close.
And for Pickerington North, Greg, I mean, you know this, the quarterback situation has changed a little bit with Mike Lowry going from Gehanna back to where he started.
It's like North. A tennis match. I mean, I can't keep up, but he's back at Pick North, and I mean, he's a very talented young quarterback. And I shouldn't say young anymore. I mean, geez, I've seen him play for 3 years now. So, they got a lot of talent.
He's got some good receivers to throw too as well.
But I'll also say, having been a coach, watching some scrimmages the last couple of weeks, week 1, I mean, week 1's a crapshoot. You don't know what you got. I think and frankly, I think it takes 4 or 5 weeks to really start seeing who's going to be who. And as we know, though, the typical schools tend to weave their way back into mix, by playoff time. But this early in the season, what excites me is those teams that you don't really see coming, that are going to have a great year, that might have a great junior or senior class that you might not have seen the last couple of years that are going to have a great year, and those are the teams I'm looking for.
A coach who I trust, who's very opinionated, and I won't say his name.
Come on! It's just us.
Through scouting, he told me he thought Reynoldsburg was the most talented team he had seen in the preseason.
Is that right?
Yes.
Wow. Well, I saw them on a couple of occasions last year, and I felt the same way. But I think they were one of those teams. I think that just hasn't figured out how to win yet on a consistent basis.
I think they've only been to the playoffs once in history. I mean, they've had a lot of 7-3, 6-4 type seasons. But like we said, getting through that league is very difficult. Lancaster's supposed to be really good this year, too, from what I've heard.
The OCC, of course, is going through another realignment here in a few years, and they're going to, again, shuffle the divisions and whatnot. The two Pickeringtons, by the way, will go to different divisions in a couple of years. Good thing or bad thing?
Well, I get tired of trying to memorize them every 2 years or 3 years, so that's a bad thing for me. But the principals vote on all this stuff, and they do it for a reason. So a lot of it has to do with the population of the schools and the proximity of the schools for travel, that sort of thing. So I'm not sure whether it's good or bad, to tell you the truth.
Well, we always joke we feel for Dave Sacuti, who may have the toughest job of any commissioner, maybe decide a Roger Goodell of trying to keep those 32 schools happy.
Oh, right, absolutely. They never keep them happy either. So
I don't doubt it. Talking high school football, the season openers are tomorrow night. There are games tomorrow night, and then there are games on Friday night, and then of course we run in head first the rest of the way out here as high school football opens up in the state of Ohio, all the way to the state playoffs. Back in Canton this year, I know you were up there last year to see the games at Tom Benson Stadium. I think that worked out pretty well for the OHSAA.
Oh, I did too. I think that's a great place to have the games. So I've always been in favor of the Canton and Massillon hosting the games. I think it's the best place. Feels like a high school football atmosphere up there. I mean, and that's football rules up in that part of the state.
Question.
I mean, that's absolutely where I think it belongs full time. But I know the OHSAA would like to shift things back and forth between Ohio State and the Northeast Ohio.
Selfishly, they have the best press box, so I'm all in. It's
all about him.
It doesn't get any better than that. But no, it's a great venue, and frankly, I've been up there so many years. I prior to going to Stark County, I argued that the teams from Southwest Ohio, that's just too far to go. But then I really fell in love with Stark County and the feel for playing really at both the stadiums. You throw Massillon in the mix. So when it came back to Columbus, I kind of missed it a little bit. I really fell in love with doing games up there. So it's such a great feel. It's such a great place, and the kids know that the history there, I believe, and the coaches certainly do. So it's a great venue, and I think that stadium is one of the best high school stadiums you can have anywhere. It's phenomenal. on the field, and yes, the press box.
I always loved Massillon, Paul Brown Stadium. I think that's a great stadium too. I really wish they would use that too. But now that they made Canton big enough, and they don't like the travel back and forth from Canton and Massillon, trying to bus everyone between games, now they can have everything right at Canton now, which is great.
Absolutely. More questions coming in, Steve, on our Facebook page for you. How do you think St. Charles will fare this year in the Central Catholic League?
Well, they can't get a whole lot worse than they were last year, and I don't mean that as a bad thing at all.
No, that's just when you go through that,
they're going through a coaching change now.
Right.
They've got a new Bob Jacoby took a few years to put the option in, the triple option. Now they're going to go to a completely different offense and defense, and they've got a big road to hoe. I think trying to go through DeSales and Hartley, and but I mean they can't go any place but up right now. I think he's a very optimistic coach. I really think Deke will try to do a good job there. And
that was the follow-up question to the one from Christian Walter. Thank you, Christian, about St. Charles from Kerry Creech was the coaching change at St. Charles. How will that affect things? And in that league, for those who aren't familiar, the Central Catholic League, you're only talking 5 schools.
Right.
So, but it's a meat grinder because you've got Hartley, you've got Watterson, as Steve mentioned, DeSales, which is extremely talented, and Bishop Reedy and St. Charles. Just it's if you're not ready every night in that league, you got your hands full.
Yeah, Watterson's at a really critical point right now. They were a traditional powerhouse for years and years. They only have 35 kids in the football team this year.
Wow.
This is the smallest numbers they've ever had, and they're going to be relying very heavily on sophomores to come through. And the coach even told us they're going to have some freshmen that are going to be playing on Friday night for the very first time in school history. So they had a couple really slim years in terms of numbers, and they're really struggling to get the numbers fortified right now.
That's amazing. That's a great point you bring up about the numbers, and I wanted to get into you about that because Millersport was unable to field a team this year.
That's right.
They've struggled with numbers for a long, long time, one of the smallest schools in Central Ohio. Do you get the impression that the numbers, that it's getting tougher and tougher for schools to get kids out for football now?
Well, I think at some schools that's an accurate statement. I think some of the smaller ones, there are very many things to do. There's soccer, there's cross country, there are plenty of other sports to get involved in. The big schools, I mean, they've got plenty of kids to go around to fill those spots. But, I've seen it. I know Afrocentric has had a lot of problems fielding a team too, ever since they've been a football program. So that's a big problem, I know, at least in some of the City League schools as well.
Absolutely.
I want to ask about Hilliard Bradley. They've had two really solid years the last couple of years, made the playoffs. Lost a lot of seniors, though. What's it look like as far as them reloading this year?
I think they're going to do a pretty good job reloading. I think they've still got some pretty good players. They've got 2 or 3 Division I prospects that I'm aware of. Blauser, Cannon Blauser, and I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but Zach Hummel is also very good. I think they're going to have a good team. I think they may even be the team to beat in their division again this year.
Okay.
Mike Leparo's a very good coach, too. I think he does a great job.
He's a fabulous coach. Yes, he is. They've been the last couple of years, they've been a team to be reckoned with for sure. They made it. I believe it was week 11 or 12 last year. They lost to Central.
Right.
They did.
And they scored a couple late to keep that game. It was kind of getting away, but they kept it fairly close.
Right.
So.
Very entertaining offense, but like you said, it'll be interesting to see what they do. The quarterback and the receiver both left, and they were big parts of that offense.
No question. Our friend Kerry Whitaker checking in, who watches us on Saturdays from the state of Texas. We had a great question from Kerry a couple of weeks back on our Saturday morning show, Steve, about high school football stadiums in the state of Ohio. And one of the questions came up about largest stadiums in the state. And we were trying to rack through our minds some of the largest ones. And Paul Brown Tiger Stadium in Massillon came to the forefront. But Central Ohio's not lacking for some outstanding facilities as well either.
No, I would say Dublin Kaufman's would probably be the largest, I would think, off the top of my head.
So, yeah.
Upper Arlington, maybe.
Kaufman's got the biggest one side, that's for sure.
Right.
I mean, it's about 80-20.
I think Kaufman seats, it's probably around 10, somewhere in that area. Upper Arlington, I don't think it's quite to 10, but it's
that big now.
It's a good size. It's still a good size facility,
big enough for sure.
Yeah, but it's remarkable when you start comparing those stadiums like that and what you see on a Friday night. It's remarkable what the state of Ohio does with high school football. Couple questions here, and we're going to move on. A lot of good games in the opener. The one I think a lot of people are going to keep a keen eye on is that Olentangy Liberty at Pickerington North game. A couple of really good teams squaring off right out of the chute of one another.
That's definitely the game of the week. I'm planning to cover that one as well. So that's going to be a fantastic game. I would say right out of the gate, that's probably 2 of the 3 best teams in the area, depending on who you talk to. But I think that's going to be a fantastic game. Definitely.
And that could be some revenge from Liberty. They got spanked last year pretty bad. The North put them on them last year.
Absolutely.
Very athletic, and that was not a good match last year. A matchup, I should say, from Liberty standpoint. So. They're well coached, obviously. Steve Hale does a great job up there. They've been in the playoffs. They kind of been quietly. They get deep into playoffs. It seems like every year.
They've been to the state Final Four 2 years in a row.
And I say it's quietly, and respectfully I say that. But that's been a good football team, so that's going to be an interesting matchup week 1. Very interesting.
No question.
Obviously, the Pickering and Central game against Chicago, Wendell Phillips on Sunday.
Right.
It's going to be on
nationally
ESPN.
televised, yeah.
Absolutely. That's going to be a fantastic game. I did some research for covering that game on the Chicago team, and they're just phenomenal. They've got a freshman who's the #1 freshman in the country. He's 6'4", 280. He's already been offered by LSU and Florida and a bunch of schools.
A freshman.
That's scary. That's remarkable.
Yeah,
What other games stand out for you in the opening week?
Well, Reynoldsburg UA is a fairly decent contest.
Yeah.
There's a few of them. It's hard to say till after the first
Right.
week, really, who's going to be good and who's not. But it'll be a great week, I think.
I think it's going to be a good one in week 2. Wheelersburg comes up from Southern Ohio to play at Hartley. That's going to be a really good game. Wheelersburg's been a power for years, and we all know what Hartley can do.
Well, yeah. Hartley's going to Toledo Central Catholic week 1 too. Wow. That's going to be a great game.
That's been their opener in the last couple of years.
It has, Toledo got
that's
them
always
last
a great
year.
game.
Definitely.
Remarkable. Great way to start the
And
high
Wheelers
school
were
season.
coming off a state championship, their
That's
first,
right.
which
That's
was
right.
an incredible victory. Last December, comeback victory.
Right. Yeah, that was a fantastic game.
It was one of the best games I've seen.
Yeah, I called the Hartley Tri-Valley game in the state semis, which was a tremendous high school football game, and Hartley came that close to making another trip. Losing. It was a tough one.
I think Hartley's going to be really good again this year, too. Brad Birchfield has spoken very highly of he's got a new quarterback this year, and he really thinks he's one of the best athletes he's had at Hartley. A very good runner and a decent passer. I think Hartley and DeSales are going to be really fight it out to see who wins the CCL this year. I think they're very evenly matched.
When it comes to Brad, I put him in the Urban Meyer category as far as they're gonna be good because he's telling them they're gonna be good. and again, I like Brad a lot. He's a great football coach. They got a great staff. That staff has been intact for quite a while.
Definitely.
So there's a lot of consistency there. And with the way that they run their offense, deep in the season, it's very difficult to defend because it's such a unique type of offense. But they master it. It's really well coached, and he's got an athletic quarterback, which is not normal for him. He's had some good quarterbacks, but it could be a good year for them.
Yeah, Miles Fleming's the quarterback this year, and Brad told me they've been looking at him since 7th grade to fill this spot. That he's really got a lot of talent.
He's played a little bit last year too, so he got his feet wet.
Yeah, well, I watched him run track last spring. He's a phenomenal track athlete. He's a really good sprinter, and I mean, I'm sure he'll add a real element to their offense.
33 years in this. Does it get old for you? Do you still enjoy it?
Pretty much. I don't like making deadlines sometimes on Friday night because they get earlier and earlier. But, yeah, I enjoy the games. Sure, I enjoy watching the games and covering the games. Absolutely.
Outstanding. We appreciate you spending some time with us tonight. Thanks for coming down.
Sure thing.
Getting the show underway. Steve Blackledge from the Columbus Dispatch joining us here tonight talking high school football. When we return, we're going to continue our discussion. Still lots to come. Bo Rugg from the Ohio High School Athletic Association will join us. Our friends from Westerville Central will be here as well, too. When we come back, Aaron Cassidy from GBSN will stop by for a few minutes and give us an update on what they're doing this year. We're a part of all that they do, and he's a part of what all we do. It's just one big happy family. So we'll do all that when we come back. We're at Max and Erma's in Westerville, and with you tonight on EBSN. Great to have you with us.
Powerball. Don't get caught without one.
The Rivalry, a historic showdown between two great teams and two passionate fan bases. This season, join Germain Honda of Dublin and Germain Honda of Ann Arbor as we relive the greatest moments in the history of the game, with special offers for listeners. Discover Honda's award-winning lineup of cars and SUVs, like the 2017 CR-V, starting at just over $24,000. But rest assured, whether you're in Ann Arbor or Columbus, you can count on Germain Honda to deliver the right car, the right price, the right way.
It really is the difference between winning and losing, being able to get your hands inside, defeat blockers, and it works at all positions and all skill levels. I'm Joey Bosa. See the difference to your game.
And we are back with you at the Max and Erma's in Westerville as we preview our high school preview show here tonight on EBSN. I'm Marty Bannister. At the far end of the table is the quarterback, Greg Fry. And we're so glad you're with us here tonight, not only at Max and Erma's, but also on EBSN. Great conversation with our friend Steve Blackledge to help get things rolling. And in just a moment or so, Aaron Cassidy from the Game Day Broadcasting Sports Network is going to join us as well, too. But first, we're going to tell you about some of the other great things going on here at Max and Erma's, which include daily specials throughout the week. Sweet Sundays brings you $1 off all desserts. Monday is Meatloaf Monday.
Ooh.
Enjoy 2 slices of Erma's meatloaf for only $10. Greg has already has his week planned out.
Yes.
Tuesday is always Kids Eat Free Day with the purchase of an adult entree. Wednesdays has now become Why Not Wednesdays, where they feature Max's original margarita for only $3. Lastly, every Thursday is Thank You Thursday, where we like to say thank you for being such wonderful guests with $5 cheeseburgers and endless fries. For more information updates, make sure to like us on Facebook. Every store has their own personal page, so be sure to support your local Max and Erma's, including this one right here in Westerville at the corner of Maxtown Road and Old 3C or State Route 3, whichever you wish to prefer to call it. So it's high school football season, and we are so glad that you're going to be with us throughout the year here on EBSN for our coverage and all the great things we have going for you. Also doing great coverage of high school football. He's been doing it for a number of years. The man in the middle here, Aaron Cassidy from the Game Day Broadcasting Sports Network, one of the internet-based broadcast outlets in Central Ohio that has really taken storm over the last few years, and that's really a great thing to see, the coverage of high school football. And Aaron, I know that it's something that's special to you. You've coached high school football before, so I know it's I guess in many respects it's almost a labor of love for you, isn't it?
It is. It's my version.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes, happy
That's
birthday.
right.
We got to start with
That's
that.
right.
I appreciate that. It's my version of coaching because my job doesn't allow for coaching. So, and I love broadcasting. So, it's something we started in 2009. Just happened to pick Hilliard Davidson that year, to be honest with you. I was new to the area, and I didn't know anything. I didn't know that much about Central Ohio football. We picked them because they played a game, an ESPN game at the Shoe, and I wanted to check that off my bucket list to call a game at the Shoe. So that's why we picked Davidson, and then in 2010 we took it to New Albany, and from there it's grown to where this year we're going to cover 6 high schools in Gahanna, New Albany, Hartley, Upper Arlington, Dublin, Jerome, and Hilliard Bradley. So each Friday night we'll have 6 broadcasts going on.
Wow.
On gbsnradio.com, and then we have the opportunity to partner with 98.9 FM here in Columbus, and we're going to do a high school game of the week on 98.9. So on Friday nights, we'll be providing 7 broadcasts going at one time. So it's really grown, and it's something that now we're moving a little bit more onto the FM side, where we're going to have a pregame, a game of the week, and then a postgame show as well.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I think that's something that's been sorely lacking in Central Ohio over the years, the coverage of high school football. No question. Be it on radio, be it on the internet, wherever, and you're filling that void.
Well, that's something we saw when I came from a small town originally, Marietta, Ohio, and they covered everything that we did, and it added so much to the student-athlete experience and the community experience. It can build so much around the community when you have people like Steve and radio out there covering, and it means a lot. So that's one of the things we saw when we moved here in 2009 is I said, you know what, not a lot of stations are doing it. How can we provide that? And that's when the internet was becoming more mobile, and now it's so easy to do. So it is something I think that is definitely needed, and it's been well received. So that's been good too.
And I would agree with that. I think these programs deserve the attention, because they're putting in so much hard work, and these kids, put in so much time to coach. They're well-coached teams. But I want to ask, what kind of feedback do you get from parents and the fan base? Because I would have to think that they really like what they're seeing.
It is,
and hearing.
and so there's multi-facet to that where you get the parents who love it, go back and listen. Obviously, the players will go back and listen. They love to hear it. But then you also get the out-of-town grandparents that are able to listen, not be before. Some of the most humbling stories I've heard, we had a guy email us who when we were just doing New Albany games, he would email us every Friday night from Iraq. He was a soldier in Iraq. And I'm like, and that was their outlets of, they would listen on the Armed Forces network, and they would be able to listen to that. And to me, that really hit home, and thought, okay, what we're doing is making an impact. And we've heard those kind of stories over the last 6-7 years where, a family member had to be out of town for someone who was ill, and they listened in the hospital. Like, really? Like, that is an impact that I wanted to make.
Yeah.
It's great that the local community gets it, but then that additional outreach that we're able to make and impact families literally around the world.
No question about it. Aaron Cassidy from the Game Day Broadcasting Sports Network here with us at Max and Erma's here at the corner of Maxtown and 3C Highway here in Westerville tonight as we talk high school football with you. In fact, one of your talented voices is in the house tonight.
That's
Gabe
right.
Genovese, and Gabe will be covering Gahanna this
He
year?
will be covering New Albany.
New Albany this year, okay.
Yep.
All
He
right.
will be covering most of the New Albany games. We're going to slide over and do the 98-9 games. So we have a lot of great talent covering games around Central Ohio, and like I said, seven broadcasts on a Friday night.
Absolutely, and it's a good thing you got Gabe and everything. He'll give the thing some validity.
Yeah, well, we had to get something. We had to get someone in
That's right.
that
That's
added
right.
some credibility to this.
That's right. Now, a student at Ohio University and one of the really up-and-coming talented
Remember
broadcasters.
that name.
That's right.
You're
Absolutely.
going to hear this name in the next
Absolutely.
few years
And
in big time.
And you're glad you have him
Absolutely.
doing games on the GB on GBSN, and your coverage again opens up on Friday night. You mentioned Gabe doing the New Albany games. Why don't you run down some of the other broadcasters you have this year?
So over at Hartley, Bob McElligott, the voice of the Blue Jackets, will do our Hartley games. Gahanna, Chris Sawicki will do our Gahanna games. Gabe's going to do New Albany. We'll do the 98-9 game. Eric Welch will do our Bradley games. He's
One
done
of the Columbus Clippers broadcasters.
Yep, from one of the Columbus Clippers broadcasters. He'll do those. Charlie Danis is going to return to Upper Arlington and do their games. He's done their games over the last 3 or 4 years for different outlets. And then Steve Bassford will be at Dublin Jerome for us. So we have a lot. I'm very blessed with the talented people we have around and the show hosts that we have. So it makes my job a lot easier.
No question. And the great thing about doing it on the internet is you're not bound by time constraints. If you want to go on at 6:30, you can go on at 6:30. You want to wrap it up at 9:45 or whatever, you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And but we try to keep it consistent so people can depend on it. But yes, to that point, it's technology and things happen. Especially if we have a game where you see it in week 1, week 2, week 3, where you're going to get thunderstorms, you're going to get delays. The internet's a little bit more flexible than you have to buy time on FM airtime and just literally buy time, like where you're just sitting there on the banana boat maybe.
Right.
Hotline, where you're just trying to figure things out.
We've been there.
Yeah. So the great thing
We've
is
been there during a broadcast,
Many
actually.
times. Exactly.
So that's the great
During
thing
a
is
game, I mean.
internet, you can kind of just put up a repeat message and people can come back as they want to where FM, which is great. You just got to be a little bit more creative with it.
You mentioned your game of the week on 98.9. What do you have tomorrow on Friday night?
So we got New Albany and Westerville South on Friday nights. That is an intriguing matchup. I know a lot of people were going to go to the Liberty North game, and we wanted to pick a unique matchup that was still going to be good. So we'll have our stream still. So we'll have the hometown broadcast of New Albany, but we're going to do the game of the week from more of a neutral standpoint for New Albany and Westerville. But we have a really good schedule, I think, this year of the games that we have for all 10 weeks for people.
Well, and as we were talking a short time ago with Steve Blackledge, it's kind of hard to not go into a week and find a very good high school football game to put on the air.
The key is one of the greatest things that the OCC did was when they did the 4 weeks of crossover games. That has put some phenomenal matchups out there that you might not see because, the teams get in their league play and obviously they might not schedule those games, but you get a Liberty Pick North type matchup that you might not see otherwise. So I love that the OCC has done that.
Well, and for people that don't know what a crossover game is, explain so they understand what that means.
So the OCC obviously broken down with the 32 teams into different conferences within the OCC. So OCC Capital, OCC Buckeye, whatever it may be, those teams will play each other. It doesn't count for league standings, but it's a kind of a non-conference game, but again, the OCC being so big.
Conference game.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And it creates some really, really good matchups. And I think it's one of the better things that's happened scheduling-wise over the last 4 or 5 years. And I know that it was just announced last Sunday that the the CCL, the Catholic League here, and Central Ohio is going to do a crossover with Cincinnati's Catholic League in the next few years, so the help them with scheduling.
Well, I was going to say that's what they have to do. It's becoming an issue.
It's becoming a big
yeah.
issue. Yeah, absolutely.
No question. Aaron Cassidy from Game Day Broadcasting Sports Network here with us. Again, we're at Max and Erma's. Brett Morrison, the head coach of Westerville Central, is going to join us here in a few minutes, and Bo Ruck from the Ohio High School League Association is going to stop by as well, too. we were talking earlier. I'm sure you heard the conversation we had with Steve Blackledge about just how good high school football is in Central Ohio. You mentioned coming here from the Marietta area as well too. But I think when you finally got a taste of what Central Ohio high school football is like, and we're going to cover the entire state as we go week by week here on this program. But since we're kind of underway with this Central Ohio wise, you've seen how strong this area is over the years.
Oh my gosh, yeah, there's all kinds of talent. I mean, coming from Southern Ohio, where mostly Division II, III, IV schools, which don't get me wrong, I love covering some of those games because you get that small town packed Friday night stadium that maybe you don't always get up here. But when you have these big matchups and that amount of talent that is in Central Ohio, it's just phenomenal. And you guys had mentioned now in the suburbs, how in the world do you have a Pickerington North and a Pickerington Central that is that good? Could you imagine if that was one high school right now, or the Olentangies, or I mean, that would be unreal. So yeah, it was a very eye-opening experience to come up here and see the different level of football that is played.
I mean, clearly Southwest Ohio is still the best, but we'll cover that. But I want to ask you, we
I got a great laugh from Bo.
Bo's in the room. He liked that. Yeah, he liked that. We can have a bias on this show, right?
Sure.
But I want to ask you. We've been talking about stadiums in Ohio, and I want to get your personal opinion, like a stadiums that you like to go watch a game at, that stand out to you, that like this just lives and breathes high school football in Ohio.
You know,
doesn't beat Central Ohio.
The first one I'm going to mention, you're going to laugh at, maybe Whitefield in Newark.
Really,
is one of my favorite stadiums from I don't love their press box, but from an actual atmosphere and what that could potentially be when Newark's good. I've seen games there when they're good.
I agree.
It's one of the most phenomenal stadiums. And then, so we've had the opportunity to do New Albany games the last 2 years at Mansfield. At their stadium's very nice, very historical.
Very
feel
historical.
That
feels
when you're in the
history.
press box, it has the old lamp lights that still you can click on.
And you have to duck.
You have to duck.
And
I mean, for Central Ohio, though, I mean, you guys hit the nail on the head with Dublin Kaufman was one of the bigger ones. Upper Arlington has that mystique to it where it's been, it's very landlocked. Their traditional power. It's going to be interesting what that stadium looks like when they do their new high school and everything, and they do their rebuild. So I think they've come a long way. Now, there's some press boxes that we go in and
scary.
Yeah, it is scary.
Yes.
But I would say even since we've covered games in the last 10 years, those upgrades have been made over a lot of those press boxes I was afraid to go in.
What about like an outlier, like a small town, like you just think this is really cool to go to? Like, there's got to be one that stands out.
Any of the MAC schools, I think, that you could go there. I don't know. Like, I'm kind of excited to go. We're going to cover the Hartley when they play we're going to cover them when they play TCC, but also when they go over – gosh, who do they play from Cincinnati area? Why is this drawing a blank?
I don't have
totally drawing a blank. But I'm excited to go to that stadium because I've heard great things about it. Marty's going to look it up.
Look it up
that's awful that it's on my schedule and I can't remember
I'm curious
the
now.
name of it.
Wanted Hills or –
no, it is
it a Catholic game?
It's not a Catholic game. It is he's got it coming
Our
here.
man on the spot's going to get this
Wheelersburg,
information.
Reedy, Chillicothe, Clinton,
Massey.
Clinton Massey.
I want to see Clinton Massey.
That's not really Cincinnati, though. But we'll take them.
Dayton.
Yeah, we'll take them. Against Southwest Ohio, they've been
to me, that's all the same. Dayton, Cincinnati.
That's a strong program. Talk about it. And that's going to be a fast. There won't be any timeouts in that game. You can't leave your seat.
No,
that game's
exactly.
going to end like in 2 hours and 15 minutes.
But from what my understanding is very small town feel to it when you roll up. There's going to be standing room only type atmosphere. So I'm excited for that one this year.
That's a good one. I like it.
That's a good one. All right, before we let you go, we mentioned how you got big games coming up on Friday. You're opener to that. We also wanted to make folks aware of the fact that you are 1 year older. So we took care of you here at
my.
So there you go. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
I appreciate that.
No, we're not singing.
Please, no singing.
We're going straight to the cake.
We don't want to empty the house. We don't want people to listen to that. So happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I'm sure you'll enjoy that.
I look forward to this. Is
we'll
phenomenal.
Share, by the way. We'll, if you want to share.
Right.
Just
absolutely.
saying.
I got you.
All right. Appreciate it, man. And everything for you starts on Friday night with your coverage at
6 o'clock. We start on 98.9. Most of our internet streams, they go at 6:45, except, how about this? Our Hilliard Bradley guys do an hour and 15-minute pregame show.
Whoa.
How about
getting
that?
serious.
Wow.
I love it.
That's getting serious.
I love it. I don't tell them to do it either. They just do it.
That's
They
great.
just go ahead and do it. All right. Thanks. I appreciate you coming down.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
When we come back, we're going to go to the Ohio High School Athletic Association office and bring in Associate Commissioner Bo Rugg. He's going to join us and talk a little high school football. Greg is going to eat Aaron's dessert. And we'll be back in a moment. We're at Max and Erma's here at the corner of Maxtown and 3C Highway in Westerville. So glad you're with us tonight as we get you ready for high school football 2018 in Central Ohio. Back with more in a moment.
Powerball. Don't get caught without one.
The Rivalry, a historic showdown between two great teams and two passionate fan bases. This season, join Germain Honda of Dublin and Germain Honda of Ann Arbor as we relive the greatest moments in the history of the game, with special offers for listeners. Discover Honda's award-winning lineup of cars and SUVs, like the 2017 CR-V, starting at just over $24,000. But rest assured, whether you're in Ann Arbor or Columbus, you can count on Germain Honda to deliver the right car, the right price, the right way.
It really is the difference between winning and losing, being able to get your hands inside, defeat blockers, and it works at all positions and all skill levels. I'm Joey Bosa. See the difference in your game.
We are back at Max and Erma's in Westerville. It's our OHSAA high school football preview show. We'll be with you every Wednesday from 7 to 9 right here at Max and Erma's talking high school football with you. The quarterback, Greg Fry. I'm Marty Bowness. Our special guests each and every week will join us. We can tell you next week's program. We've already lined up, scheduled to join us. The first-year head coach at Olentangy Berlin, Mark Norrie, will be here with us next week. Our friends from Westerville South are scheduled to join us next week. Still to come on this program, Westerville Central head coach Brent Morrison will join us. And in just a moment, Bo Rugg from the Ohio High School Athletic Association. He'll be up here to talk to us about high school football 2018 in the state of Ohio, which is ready to kick off the games tomorrow night and then all the way to Canton and the state championships, which is just remarkable. 7 divisions and on to the state championships in Canton. And, Greg, I know it's been a few years since you played high school football in Ohio, but that feeling never leaves you of a Friday night ready to play a game.
It doesn't leave me, and I think for me it's just being part of that experience. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my playing days are long gone, but I think I've really developed a passion for being involved in high school football, and I can't. I'm losing the track of how many years I've done this now. You know, I've been part of broadcasts on Friday nights and Saturday nights and even some Thursdays, and it's just that feel doesn't leave me, and I can't get enough of that. And it's just I love this time of year because it's a 15-week run for some teams. You know, a lot of teams it's 10. But for the ones that have a chance to go all the way, it's 15, and that's just such a special thing. Not that it's all about the championship, but I love to see that process throughout the year, and you know, and the passion from the kids and the coaches and just the atmosphere on Friday night. That's something I always want to be a part of.
And again, it all kicks off with games tomorrow night, and then leading up to the state championships in Canton. I want to give you a quick Urban Meyer update. We should probably do this. Reports on Twitter that the board members have publicly said that Urban Meyer is now not in the room, that they are continuing to discuss what the situation is with the head football coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Chances are this thing could probably go into the morning. which, I mean, he was to be the head breakfast coach at one time, but that didn't work out. So, but we'll see.
Just adding to the story.
Just adding to the story. It continues
just bringing
on.
more attention on the
It continues
subject.
on.
Can we just get some facts and
But again,
get some
before we're done
decisions?
tonight, if we hear of anything that's happened, we'll certainly pass it along to you. All right, we're going to take another quick break. Can we do that? Outstanding. When we come back, Bo Rugg from the Ohio High School Athletic Association will join us as we continue our high school football conversation live at Max and Erma's on EBSN here on this Wednesday night. So glad you're with us tonight.
Powerball. Don't get caught without one.
The Rivalry, a historic showdown between two great teams and two passionate fan bases. This season, join Germain Honda of Dublin and Germain Honda of Ann Arbor as we relive the greatest moments in the history of the game, with special offers for listeners. Discover Honda's award-winning lineup of cars and SUVs, like the 2017 CR-V, starting at just over $24,000. But rest assured, whether you're in Ann Arbor or Columbus, you can count on Germain Honda to deliver the right car, the right price, the right way.
It really is the difference between winning and losing, being able to get your hands inside, defeat blockers, and it works at all positions and all skill levels. I'm Joey Bosa. See the difference to your game.
Back with you at Max and Erma's on this Wednesday night. It's our OHSAA high school football preview show. So glad you're spending time with us tonight as we get you ready for the 2018 high school football season. I'm Marty Bannister, the quarterback, Greg Fry, at his usual location. And joining us now is the Associate Commissioner from the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Football falls in his purview, and I know it's a job he enjoys very much. Bo Rugg is with us here tonight here at Max and Erma's. Good to see you. I asked Greg a moment ago, Bo, about that feeling about high school football. He has it from a playing day. You have it from the administration, the officiating. It's something that never leaves you, does it?
It doesn't leave you. And it's one of those things, too, that as like Greg, I look forward to it. I look forward to the weeks. And for me, it is 15 weeks. I got 10 weeks of regular season where I have a lot to do. And then, of course, we're responsible for the tournament. So we have a ton to do during that time. And even though it's a lot of work, it's a labor of love. It's so much fun, and I really enjoy it a lot. Football has always been for me. When I was officiating at the end of the season, I wish it was starting the next day again. It's that good. And in this state, with these teams, especially in Central Ohio, maybe a little bit in Southwest Ohio.
Yeah, maybe just a little.
But
You were listening.
It's really good. I mean, the whole state is really good.
True.
And I travel all over the state. I'm actually going Southwest tomorrow.
Okay.
And I go to 3 sites. So yeah, I'm jazzed, just jazzed about it.
For those that may not know, what's the 30,000-foot view of the state as far as how many schools are involved in high school football starting this week?
And we'll have 719 schools, I think, we'll end up with this year. And obviously 7 different divisions. We several years ago went with the Division I of 10%, so we're at 72 teams. Actually, we will end up with 71 this year, because when we have a district like Olentangy that a new school comes in, we do all that restructuring September 10th after they're in school. So Berlin will come in, and I don't know where they'll land, Division 3 or 2, but with the restructuring, we look at every Olentangy school and their numbers, and so we reposition if we need to. I'm almost sure Olentangy is going from 1 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
So
because they're losing players, correct?
Right.
You mean Olentangy?
Regular Olentangy.
Yeah, Olentangy Prime. I've heard it called Olentangy
Braves.
Prime. Yeah,
Right.
Braves.
The
Yeah.
Braves.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't redo numbers or anything. We just move them. So I think we'll have 71 this year in Division 1. So and that's the deal. Good fun.
And that's something that I know you always have to go back and look at that because of the way that districts grow, not only in Central Ohio, but really in other areas of the state too. You always have to go back and recycle and look at all of this and figure out, well, we might have to move this school here now. That school's going to have to take a drop down or make a move up.
And we redo the regions every year in football. Even though for a long time we did 2-year cycles on numbers, we still did regions every year. And they change a little bit, obviously, with new schools coming in and things like that. They will change. The competitive balance has really made them change because then you got people up and down, and so look at I think it's TCCs all the way up to 2, and
Wow.
so that changes the dynamics and those types of things. And I get people asking me I usually do those in late May, and I get people asking me in April, schools, when are you doing the regions? Who are we with? And I said, I'll tell you as soon as we have them.
That's a little bit of math, by the way. Just for those.
Yeah, exactly.
They do a lot of work, and we appreciate everything you guys do.
I'm a math guy, and I love that kind of stuff too.
Exactly.
I mean,
No
scheduling
question.
and things that I've always done, so it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's funny because you talk about things like that, and obviously the high school football computer rankings are right at the top of that list as far as the reaction that it gets. I think we've always joked with each other that the biggest day of the year, other than Friday, is Tuesday. When the computer rankings come out, they're in the afternoons. So everybody can figure out where they're at and what they could be doing. It's a unique system that Ohio uses. And again, maybe for those who aren't familiar with the way it's done, it's a very structured process. It's not done by just the drop of a hat. It's a process that's been fine-tuned and retuned over the years, and it's really unlike any other process that any other state in the union uses.
It is. It is very unique, and it was made by this fella named Harbin, like 40 years ago, or whatever it was, and it hasn't changed a lot since then. It really is based on first level points, and that's who you beat, and then second level points are those points you get from who you beat, who they beat, and that really helps solidify people. Are you playing good teams, and are they getting you points? And we always have teams every year that are 8-2, and they don't make it because, unfortunately, the people they played that year just didn't have very good seasons.
Yeah, and I'm still bitter about 1986, by the way.
I know you are.
We were 8-1-1, and that was before the expansion
That's
of the playoffs.
before the expansion, though.
Before the expansion, right.
But I'm still bitter.
And as well you should be. As well you should be. Because
Well, if you hadn't had that tie, you probably would have got in. That probably falls on you.
There's no question.
That is true. We tied Roger Bacon. Not that I'm counting, or anything.
No question. And by the way, since Joe Idle has been our person that's doing this, he rocks. By the way, he is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's incredible what he does.
He does this, and you can click on. I use it all the time. I used it before we used him. I'm clicking on it to find out, who's going to make it, who might make it, who's out, who's all that kind of stuff. And it's amazing. Coaches are amazing. They know going in to week 9 and 10 who has to win. And all that kind of stuff. They're incredible.
I don't know how
They don't pay any attention to that stuff.
Oh my gosh.
That information is in there
You always
quickly,
hear that,
like
yeah.
Friday night. I mean,
Yeah.
that blows my mind because I'm on it too. I mean, we're all
Well,
looking
we
at
all
it.
are absolutely checking right away.
Yeah. Since Joe's been doing it, it's almost real time. It's
That
literally
is
is almost real time,
amazing.
which is great.
He's got that basement command center whirring at his house with all that stuff churning it out. I know you're thankful for it though.
Incredibly. It's we spent so much time my first several years in the office getting scores, and it was Tuesday or before we could get scores, and oh my God, what are we going to do? We got to get these things out, and then with Joe, that's just not a problem. He collects it, he finds it. It's incredible. So it gets exciting, and it really starts about week 4. About week 4, people are starting to think.
Right. Bo Rugg from the Ohio High School Athletic Association with us, one of the associate commissioners. Football is his area of purview, and he's joining us here tonight to help kick off our program and our relationship with the Ohio High School Athletic Association as well as we look towards the high school football season again, which starts around the state on Thursday. Do you like the Thursday games?
I do, because that gives me another game I get to go to. I mean, it's like everybody asked me last year on the going to Friday nights only for playoffs. They said, what do you think about it? I said, well, we're doing it. And, the coaches, especially the Division I coaches and 2, really wanted that. They're creatures of routine, and I get that. And we said, I'm not afraid to try anything. But I said, the people that this hurts are the media and me, because we don't get to go to enough games.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a fact. So do I like the Thursday? Yeah, because I like to go to the games. But I ask the schools every time I go to Thursday, what do they think? And it's a struggle for them sometimes to not only is the Thursday night game a struggle, if you think about the dynamics of what you do, they bring in one of their clubs or one of their other teams or whatever to clean up on Saturday, usually on their Friday night games.
Right.
How do you do that on Friday? They're in school.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some dynamics there that are tough, and so some schools have it together and willing to do it, but it's difficult for others.
And I would even Saturdays. I mean, from a broadcasting standpoint, I love the Saturday games because I could go to a Friday night game and a Saturday night game. But as a coach, Saturdays are rough. Mm-hmm. They are rough, especially when you got a short week on the back end of that. And that's some of these coaches have gotten pretty good at that. But that's not their favorite thing.
Absolutely. I mean, creatures of routine.
Yes.
It's very tough when I said now I got a short week, and then the other dynamic on the Saturday game is Friday. Where all your players are on Fridays.
Yeah, true.
Right.
True.
And you get into the game, and it's a whole day of where are they. I think that would be difficult. I know it is difficult, but they again the teams that play on Saturday deal with that and deal with it very well.
Right.
And I know you had some issues last year with the thought was when moving everything off of Saturday. I mean, and let's face it, a lot of what happens on Saturdays at Ohio Stadium or wherever they're playing affects, I think, some of the decision going into that to move all those games to Friday. Now you're going back to Friday and Saturday now, and I know it was you had some issues with it. You mentioned the media and whatnot, but I guess it's a decision where you have to find a happy medium at some point, and I think maybe you found it by going back to Saturday.
Well, one of the things that I've tried to do is make sure whatever decisions we make for good reasons, and then we evaluate and we get input. The input we didn't get a lot of negative on all Friday, but we didn't have huge positives. We didn't have huge positives financially. And we had some feedback from especially our smaller schools that, hey, we like to go both nights. We like that in different parts of the state. And I thought, why have we split up the divisions like we have on those nights? And I've witnessed it. I mean, I 3 or 4 years ago, I'm over watching Minster on a Friday night, and I see all these Marion Local jackets. And then you go to Marion Local the next night, and you see all the Minster jackets. I mean, they support their league.
Yes, they do.
Right.
Yes,
and
they do.
And I think we have that in different pockets all over the state. And so we listen to that, and so that's why we're going 1, 2, 3, and 6 on Friday. So we have one small division on Friday, and then 4, 5, and 7 on Saturday, and 3 small, and so they can go to each other's, and we'll see how that plays out. And I know that the Division 1 and 2s for sure like the Friday night for many reasons, especially the fact that a lot of those kids that are being recruited at big schools, when do you want to do your visit?
They want to go Saturdays.
They want to go Saturday, and they want to go in November when the games are big.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And why wouldn't you?
Right.
Bo Rugg from the Ohio High School Athletic Association is with us here on our high school football preview show. Again, we're at Max and Erma's at the corner of Maxtown and 3C in Westerville. This is where you'll find us every Wednesday night from 7 to 9 throughout the high school football season, talking about the upcoming games, looking back at last week's games. As we mentioned, coming up on our program next week, scheduled to join us, Olentangy Berlin first-year head coach Mark Norrie will be here. Our friends from Westerville South are scheduled to be here. We'll have some other guests stopping down next week to talk high school football with us as we move along here on the season. Another aspect of the games, state championship games back to Canton. We touched on that a little bit earlier, and I think for the most part, things went very well last year. I know it was still kind of a work in progress surrounding the Tom Benson Stadium up in Canton, but I think for the most part, everybody came away from that feeling very good about that.
Absolutely, we had a great experience, and the Hall of Fame people and the Canton Sports Group has been phenomenal. When we met and debriefed afterwards, I had my list of operational issues, and they came in. They had 95% of it on their list.
Wow.
And they said, we understand this. We want to address this. I can't say enough good things about how they've come to us with this and realize, guys, this was the first event of its type for them. They've had single games. They've had some single high school games. Of course, they have the Hall of Fame event is a festival in itself.
Right.
They do that. They understand that. But this is 7 games in 2.5 days, in and out, crowds in and out, those types of things. For a first time doing it, it was very good.
And that's a good point because prior to coming to Ohio Stadium, Stark County had hosted the state finals for years, but it was 2 stadiums.
Right.
They were going back and forth between Massillon and Canton, so they would only have 3 games, maybe 4, spread out over a couple of days. Now you got 7 stacked in 2.5 days. Right. That is intense.
It is intense, and the great thing about coming to Ohio State was we had to do those 7 in the 2.5 days, and prove that logistically it can be done, right. And so really both venues now we've learned from each other, and that's really helped them. And so it's been fun. It's been really fun.
Getting some comments on our Facebook Live page. Thank you, Larry Cassidy says nice show. Joe Blauser, Parker Vogel watching tonight. We're glad you're watching the program as well too. So we thank you very much for that. And we also got some Twitter questions coming in as well too. We hit a couple of these earlier. Kerry Creech, like about the St. Charles Championship possibilities. Well, we talked about that earlier with Steve Blackledge, as well too. Teams to look out for in Division II. I mean, it's when you look at thank you, Jake. When you look at the divisions, Bo, I know we touched on earlier about trying to keep things as balanced as possible with the way things work out as far as the competitive balance is concerned. I mean, and that's the great thing about Ohio high school football. Yes, the Division I schools get the most of the, I guess, publicity, if you will, but Division VII, they're great. They're great teams that play football. D6 all up and down.
Yeah, and our championship games, we've seen that each division. We've had great championship games, and it's about the competitive nature when they get there. And we've really, I think this will be my 7th year. It's been more and more competitive each year. So I think that speaks well for the teams and what we've done. We haven't had very many blowouts in the last couple of years in championship games, and that's a good thing.
I think sometimes you're going to get blowouts because you have an outstanding team, and
right.
From a matchup standpoint, even at that level, 15 weeks in, I've seen that. But it's rare, but you get a few of those. But from a fan perspective and from a broadcasting perspective, we had great games in the last couple of years, and they're fun to watch, they're fun to call, and I think it's what everybody wants.
Well, and I hope people realize too that you can have great games. We had, I think it was eight teams that were 8 seeds beat a 1 last year. I mean, think about that.
Wow,
that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen.
That's
now.
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, now you got 112 games the first week, and you say, well, it's still 8 of those are 8s versus 1s, and they won. So the Harbin ratings are designed that you can get some of those teams that might finish 7 or 8, but their schedule was brutal enough that's a good football team. So.
Yes.
For the fans out there, take a look at where those teams come from. You can find some good games to go to all through the tournament, but think about the regional finals we get. I mean, and we already talked about the 2 Pickeringtons.
Right. I think back, of course, I referenced Southwest Ohio 2 years
course,
ago.
Yeah.
St. Xavier comes in at 5-5. Well, it's never happened, though, right? 5-5. They eat their way in.
Right.
And they win a state championship.
Yeah, ran a table, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's one of the big reasons why I love the game of football is that the 5-5 team that gels and everybody comes together and sacrifices and does the little things that they have to do each and every game. Once you start doing that, those,
that's a great story.
It's awesome.
Whatever. I mean, I just mentioned St. Xavier, but I mean, we've seen teams do that every year.
Absolutely,
in different divisions that they catch fire. Week 8, week 9, sometimes week 10. They barely win week 10 and they get in. And all of a sudden, something clicks and they go. And that's something that I never get tired watching a team like that.
You touched on, Bo, the 8s beating the 1s, and for those who don't follow the format closely enough, that 8 winning at a 1, that was a road team winning at a home team.
Correct.
When an 8 win and beat a 1. And I know you deal with this every year when you get towards the playoffs, and you have to facilities become an issue, sites to host regional games. The first round games are so special, though, I think, to the schools that end up hosting those. Any consideration to expanding that any further, maybe giving the winner a second round game to help you maybe with the facility issue?
Well, I think two things. Yes, is the short answer of we've looked at it, but the fact of the matter is we get more and more facilities every year.
Right.
And in the years I've been here, this will be my 7th tournament, we've never played a second round game on grass. And in the state of Ohio, in late November, that's huge.
That is big.
That's huge.
That is big.
Because I got an offer in the MAC. It was a wonderful thing that one of the MAC schools said, hey, if we get Marion Local and somebody, I don't know who it was, in the second round, we'll host them if they want to come here. And it was a grass field, but it was in great shape. Mm-hmm. And I called the schools. I said, look, I can put it somewhere else, but they're offering. Do you want to go? And the school said, flat out said, we want to go on the turf.
Yes.
We don't want to take any chances.
Yes.
And, it rains Thursday. It rains during the game. It's just a different game.
Yeah.
And so we're very fortunate. And we get more and more every year. People redoing their entire stadiums, not just putting turf in, but redoing the stadium and all kinds of locales. That's really exciting. And it's made it a lot easier. It was tough last year, all Fridays, that second week, 56 sites on Friday night. That was hard.
And I just want to add to that because I hear comments a lot. Well, who's choosing these sites and these games, and how challenging is that? Though? I want people to understand what that's like, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of factors involved.
There's a ton of factors.
Like, well, we're 64 miles away and they're 50. Yeah. That's not fair.
Yeah. Well, and I put that right in the regulations. The distance between is not a big deal, and one is not a big deal to us. We don't see that as a thing. If you're on a bus, you're on a bus. If you're on a bus for 45 minutes versus an hour and 10 minutes, it's really no different.
Right.
You still have to load.
Players
you still
aren't
have
driving.
to
They don't care.
No, they don't. And so that's not a big deal. We want to put it at the best site that's as conveniently located as possible. One of the things I want to do this year, and I've really got to get on this because I need to contact the schools, even though most of them are in, but not all of them are in for that date, is I want semifinal worthy sites. It's not the same as, well, we'll take the site. It's kind of between, it's okay, it's good, it's a good site. I don't know if it holds the right thing. State semifinal games need to be at a worthy site.
Yes.
Right. And I've got a list of probably 22 or 3 sites that are semifinal worthy, and that may mean people will travel further.
Yes.
But it's just like you travel further for the state final.
Right.
It's
a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yes,
absolutely.
And there's some. I mean, have you ever been to the stadium in Jackson?
Oh yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
You talk about a semifinal worthy site, and there's no brainers. There's Mason, and there's there's a lot of no brainers out there, but some of them we don't necessarily get that weekend. And I want to say, I want you to be a semifinal worthy site. Will you commit to that Thanksgiving weekend? And we need that because it should be that much of a big deal. that game.
No question.
Yes.
There's so many topics I wanted to get into, talk to you about, but we're kind of running short of time. And I wanted to throw one at you, kind of go back to the computer rankings for a moment. And this is a question that comes up on occasion, and it's come up this year. And I'll use this example. We touched on him earlier, but Millersport unable to field a team, and they're in the Mid-State League. And this was a decision made, I think, right before camp started.
Yes.
That they weren't going to be able to field a team. What does that do to teams as far as their computer ranks? Because they have to now suddenly, a month before the season starts, they're tasked with finding a game to fill a spot with.
Well, the good news is if they don't find a game, we change the divisor. And we've had lots of teams that either only played 9 games or their 10th game was against a team that we won't count in the Harbin ratings. We have several criteria that you have to meet to be able to count in the Harbin ratings. And you can't be an all-star team, you can't whatever. But you change the divisor, it's mixed to say whether that's good. It's not bad for you. Is it better for you? I think it was better. We'd have a lot more teams playing 9 games. But it doesn't hurt you. We've seen that. It's not like, that kicked us out. Because by changing the divisor, not only at the first divisor to 9, it's 90 for the second level divisor, and it works out great. So that's a great question, Mark, because people don't realize that. They think, oh my gosh, that's screwing everybody up. It really isn't.
And that's something that it's not every year you have to deal with it, but the process is in place, as you mentioned, just changing the divisor and whatnot and helping those schools out. You said you're going to Southwest Ohio on Friday night to watch a game?
Yeah, we're going to Hamilton first, and then Winton Woods. Winton Woods got Trotwood, by the way.
Wow.
Hello.
That opener.
Hello.
Wow.
Here we go.
There's
might
gonna
be
some skill on
130
that
points
field.
in the show that night.
And then Lakota East on the way back.
Oh, okay.
So,
So some great games to see. We always appreciate you spending some time with us. Thanks for coming down and helping us kick
Happy
this
to
thing
do
off.
it.
We appreciate it.
Come anytime you want.
Absolutely. We'll have you back. Enjoy your trip to Greg's area, Southwest Ohio. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we'll continue our high school football conversation again. We're live at Max and Erma's in Westerville. This is our OHSAA high school football preview show. Back with more after this.
Powerball. Don't get caught without one.
The Rivalry, a historic showdown between 2 great teams and 2 passionate fan bases. This season, join Germain Honda of Dublin and Germain Honda of Ann Arbor as we relive the greatest moments in the history of the game, with special offers for listeners. Discover Honda's award-winning lineup of cars and SUVs, like the 2017 CR-V, starting at just over $24,000. But rest assured, whether you're in Ann Arbor or Columbus, you can count on Germain Honda to deliver the right car, the right price, the right way.
It really is the difference between winning and losing, being able to get your hands inside, defeat blockers, and it works at all positions and all skill levels. I'm Joey Bosa. See the difference to your game.
We are back at Max and Erma's on this Wednesday night, getting you ready for the high school football season. The quarterback, Greg Fry, Marty Bannister. So glad you're spending time with us here on this Wednesday as we talk high school football. About 15 minutes left in the program tonight. We're still hoping to hear from head coach Brent Morrison from Westerville Central. I understand he did tell me earlier this evening he did have a sick child, so priorities, obviously. I know people really want to
I'm
talk.
thinking extra practice. Is
People
thinking.
really want to talk to you, but
no, I think it's extra practice.
No,
if it was me on Wednesday, I'd be like, we're staying longer.
He's one of a handful of new coaches in the area this year. Bubba Kidwell at New Albany's another one taking over. We mentioned what Mark Norrie's doing with Olentangy Berlin, but there are a lot of coaches. I think it's 16 first-year coaches this year. And it's a lot of these guys are stepping into. Well, St. Charles is another one that we touched on. Yeah. Bexley has does Bexley have a second year head coach? Yes. Well, yes. Bexley's an interesting story. I wanted to bring that up because you relate to that because you coached there, correct?
I did.
They are a year away. Last year winless. The year before that, unbeaten in the playoffs.
Regular season,
10-0-10. That's trying to bounce back from that.
That's lost a big senior class, and they lost numbers. And it's, and Bexley, a school like Bexley, bringing numbers is always
it's always
a challenge.
Yeah.
In there, you're competing against those other sports.
Yeah. Basketball, especially, very big.
Yeah, I mean, it's I dare I say football has not been the most important sport there. I think I can say that with objectively, and that's okay. But as a coach there, you're trying to recruit your own hallways,
right?
Which every coach does. But,
exactly.
But they'll bounce back. I'm confident of that.
I want to remind you, Max and Erma's is rolling out their fall menu starting on August the 27th. Some of the features include a new Asian chopped salad, a delicious French onion burger, and the return of the guest favorite, of course, the smokehouse chicken sandwich. Also, be sure to join us every Tuesday night for Kids Eat Free, as well as every Thank You Thursday, where we say thank you to our guests. That's you folks. With our $5 burgers and endless fries. For more updates, be sure to like us at Max and Erma's Westerville on Facebook. And we certainly appreciate all their hospitality for having us down here tonight to talk high school football with you. We had a great crowd here tonight, folks, with some great questions been thrown our way on Facebook and on our Twitter page as well, too. And again, just kind of keeping you abreast of, obviously, everything, the news that's surrounding everything right now. That's the Urban Meyer situation. The Board of Trustees apparently are still meeting since 9 o'clock this morning. And so it
can
only
only speculate
and on.
Still.
Yeah,
and
that's as we've talked on our Buckeye Overtime program a number of Saturdays. That's all it is right now, speculation, because nobody knows what's going on except those.
We want to know some facts,
right.
and can we just move on with this deal and let the coach coach?
Exactly. Take me through the mindset, Greg, as a former coach, what this week is like for a coach, because it's game week now. You've gone through all the preseason drills. You've had your scrimmages. You've done all those things. What's a game week like?
Well, it's week one's a challenge, because you've at least got a better feel for your team because you've played a couple scrimmages, and there's so much improvement from the first scrimmage to the second scrimmage to week one and even week two. Depending on the skill level you have and the leadership you have and the experience you have. But week one's there's so many unknowns too. Because it's your first time. It's I watched a scrimmage last week. I saw St. Xavier and Gahanna, and it was a scrimmage. It was game conditions in the first half, but it didn't have that game feel. There's a difference.
Right.
When the band's there and the families are there and the fans are there. As a coach, there's just so many other variables that you've got to pay attention to in week one. But the bottom line is you got to have your team prepared, and when you got new guys playing. New sophomores, juniors, or whatever they are, maybe some seniors that have been around that are playing for the first time, you don't know what you're going to get. They've been in scrimmages, but you're not sure what you're going to get. So it's the unknowns, and I think some coaches just take a big sigh of relief after the first game, regardless of how they play, because now they know what they have, and they can go work on those things.
I like the mentality of a lot of coaches who will play, like, for example, pick Central and Olentangy Liberty. I mean, that's right out of the chute. A couple of teams that fully expect to be playing in Week 11.
Pick North.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Week 11 and Week 12 and so forth. And they're going to go at one another right away because more than anything, not only if you win the game, those computer points are waiting for you down the road, but you also find out a boatload about your football team in that first week.
Yes, you do. And if you're on the underside of that, then you're like, okay, I mean, we got some work to do. But, there's a lot of different philosophies on you want to play a tough game right away or not. I mean, if you play a cupcake right away, you're still not necessarily learning about your team. You could blow somebody out in week one and win 50-14, and then play a tough game week two, and your guys aren't ready. So there's, it's part of, coach speak is, hey, we got to get better today. We got to get better this week. And really, the coaches that are able to do that and really hone in and improve week to week, the most growth you typically see is week one, week two.
Right. Yeah, you hear that a lot. And
it's true.
It's usually
true.
Right. It's absolutely true. Question or two here for Greg, again, off of our Twitter page and our Facebook page as well, too. Wondering about high school football, even though it's been a while since you played.
Yes.
Long time ago. Biggest difference in the game. How much this poster was? How much faster was the game at the college level?
At the between high school and college?
Yeah.
I got you. A lot faster, and especially collectively, like as a quarterback, seeing the field, the speed of the college game is a major change to your eyes, and I think that the example I use is I'll never forget being a true freshman. One of our very first scrimmages in Ohio Stadium. Earl Bruce took us to the stadium, and I'm running with the second-team offense going against the first-team defense. So I'm staring at Chris Spielman, right? And those beady little eyes just looking at me. And I remember running a play-action pass, and I made the fake, and I turned. You're supposed to get your head around and look at the defense. And the first thing I pick up is those beady little eyes, and they're already where I'm trying to throw to, and he's already there.
Right.
And I was just like, wow. I mean, just the speed at which he got to that. Now a year later, I used that against him, but that's another story. But it is a major adjustment, and that's where young quarterbacks coming in, or young players for that matter, have to adjust to the speed of the game because it's across the board.
No question. Another question here for you, Greg. Centers on the ongoing argument about which state has the best high school football. Obviously, you're going to side with Ohio, and there's any question about that. We all are. We think Ohio has the best, but California, Texas, Florida. You've seen a lot of football. Is there a noticeable difference, the poster wants to know, between the top states? Well,
I haven't been to games in Texas or Florida, but clearly, I mean, if you talk to somebody from Texas, I mean, if you've seen some of the stadiums in Texas, wow. I mean, it's a big deal. And Florida clearly puts out talent, that's just unbelievable every year. So, but look, I know what I know about Ohio football, and you can ask college coaches. They come recruit Ohio because of the athletes they get and because of the players get coached well. There's great coaching in the state of Ohio. So, we have a bias, but the state of Ohio produces every year. And again, all parts of the state, frankly. We can joke about Southwest Ohio, but, you go northeast, you look at St. Ed's and Mentor recently, St. Ignatius. I mean, what Chuck Kyle's done in the last 20 years. I mean, come on. I mean, there's some tremendous programs. And I'm skipping a lot of programs. We could be here all night if I mention them all, but great coaching in the state of Ohio.
No question about it. That's the quarterback, Greg Fry, Marty Bannister. We're glad you're with us here tonight. About 10 minutes left in the program as we talk high school football with you here with the openers coming up on Friday. Again, EBSN, we'll have you covered each and every Wednesday right here with the shows that we'll do. Coaches, broadcasters, writers from all around the area will join us each and every week here, and we hope you'll join us as well, too. We have a live microphone here. If you wish to come up and ask a couple of questions, you're more than welcome to do that as well, too. We will certainly field those from you, and also as people have been doing throughout the night, hitting us up on YouTube, Twitter, and on our Facebook page as well, too, with some great questions centering on high school football. You mentioned the biggest improvement, obviously, week 1 to week 2. How important is it, though, to come out of that week 1 with a victory? I mean, so it's a long season, but that week 1, how much does that help you? Momentum, everything.
Clearly you want to win week 1, but, I mean, I've been on both sides of that. I mean, I've lost week 1. My first game coaching at Bexley, my first year as offensive coordinator, I thought I was going to be a pretty good football coach. We got skunked 19-0 by Canal Winchester, and I got humbled real quick. But we bounced back. I think the second week we played at London and we won, and we played so much better. So it's a completely different field. So you're 1-1. So if you're going to be 1-1, I don't know if it's better to lose week 1 or week 2. It's about the improvement of your team and finding out what you have. Because again, coaches, you think but stuff shows up on Friday night that you weren't ready for.
Right.
And that's just the nature of the beast because you're dealing with 16, 17-year-old kids.
Right. We had Steve Blackledge on from the Dispatch a little bit earlier telling us about some of the teams he's looking forward to watching. And we touched on the City League situation with him. I wanted to bring that up because of where that's going right now. And it's not getting any easier for schools in the City League to field teams, and because of the enrollment numbers that those schools face. And we talked about the story, how the board is considering, the Columbus School Board is considering closing a couple of high schools. Marion Franklin is one of them. Linden McKinley is another one, which Linden has always had trouble, seemingly, putting quality numbers on the field in football. Yeah. And Greg, I know it's for those city schools, it's very difficult, and I don't know what they can do other than perhaps the step that they're taking to try to try to fight that problem.
That's a tough one. That's a hard one, and I have so much respect for those coaches because not only do they struggle getting kids out there, but even when they're out there, they struggle getting them to show up consistently. In general terms, I mean that is a challenge for those guys. So logistically, they have a lot more on their plate than just maybe a normal coach would, and the passion that they show and the patience that they show in those situations is incredible. And I only hope, coach like Brian Halfley out there and Byron Maddox. I mean, those guys do a fabulous job. Those guys that I know personally that every year they're producing.
And that Marion Franklin program is one that has really, over the years, I mean, they've generated a lot of talent. I mean, they've had great players come out of that, and they've made some deep runs into the playoffs. Brookhaven, which is now closed, won a state championship.
Yes.
They had a great run of producing talent. So, it's got to be hard for those schools to keep that going.
And I remember that Brookhaven team. That was a
very good high school football
team.
Absolutely.
And you're right, Marion Franklin has had some great teams, too. I mean, the talent that he's produced is incredible. And Walnut Ridge, I'll throw them in there. I mean,
absolutely.
In the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So impressive.
Yeah, it sure has. All right, we've had a lot of fun here with you tonight talking high school football. We're going to put a wrap on this for you tonight. And again, each and every Wednesday night, this is where you'll find us here at Max and Erma's, and also on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and Twitter as well, too. We get great reaction from you tonight, the fans out there of high school football across the state of Ohio. We love your questions, love your comments. Please keep them coming. And don't forget EBSN. We'll keep you updated on whatever's going on in the Urban Meyer situation. Again, that last check, the Board of Trustees were still meeting at 9 o'clock at night. They started at 9 o'clock this morning. The discussions go on, so it's going to be a long night with that. So stay with EBS. And we have, in fact, have a reporter there covering that right now. So as long as it goes, we'll get updates and we'll have it here for you on our website. We have so many other great shows for you as well, too. They didn't put a list in front of me. I always forget each and every show name. Oh, hang on.
Here we go.
Bonnie, right there.
Bonnie's got it.
Bonnie's got it for you right there. I'll do it the easy way. There are the shows that we have for you right here on EBSN. That way I won't. That way I don't miss any of it. You can't blame me. And you can't blame me. But we have a lot of great shows, so stay with us. So we're certainly excited about all that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be a lot of fun.
Out of the chute here. Been a great show tonight. We appreciate everybody for joining us here tonight. Thank you for being with us, and all you folks watching us on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter as well, too. We're back with you next Wednesday night for another edition of our OHSAA Football This Week program here at Max and Erma's. Thanks to the folks at Max and Erma's. They did a great job. We certainly appreciate all their help and assistance. Great food. This is the place to be on Wednesdays to talk high school football. We'll see you next week.